Thanks for being here, Mark. We have Mark Hunter, author of High Profit Prospecting, and this is his book. I got one right here. I got a couple pencils shoved in the top to mark off my pages for lack of bookmarks. Mark, you need to give me more of these cards so I can throw them in next time. But Mark is seasoned veteran in sales here. We're going to be talking about prospecting. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on today.
Definitely, definitely. What's up?
No, I was saying it's always good to catch up with you wherever you are because nobody keeps a crazier schedule than you. So
Yeah, I try, of course. So today we're talking about prospecting. We're going to go into a lot of the topics in the book, and you kind of run through everything in this book. It's actually insanely robust. If you haven't read it yet, it goes through everything from like the basic, kind of what is prospecting, all the way through using all the different areas of prospecting. So, what would be your like top areas of prospecting that you like to go into most? I mean, obviously like phone, social, etc.
yeah, well, let's run right there with phone and social. There's a tweet I've been using a lot lately. Hashtag social media without social connection is social stupidity.
Hmm.
Because boy, how many times have we been victims of, not victims, but we've seen sales organizations, they push all this stuff out on social media. And the problem is there's a lot of noise out there. You got to create social connection. You've got to connect with people. I love social media, but you know what? It works best when I get it down to a one-to-one tool because
Yep.
social media is really nothing more than really telephone in a different form, if you really think
Yep.
about it.
Yep. It's another way to connect with someone. I always like to say it's a great way to stay on people's radars and build value along the way. Gives you a kind of like non-intrusive way to, again, people just like to have their ego stroked sometimes. So whether you like favorite something or retweet something of theirs, or you provide a link for them to check out, to their Twitter account, those are just really easy ways to stay on their radar. Obviously, provide some value along the way. But what are the things? What are some of the best practices that you see on social for prospecting?
Well, one of the things that I said, yeah, I want to be putting stuff out there. But here's the whole thing. Unless you're commenting and adding commentary to thing, I love retweeting other people's stuff. You're very active out there. I retweet. And I try to add a comment. I try to add something to it. Why? Because it does two things. One, it really demonstrates to the person who you're retweeting, or maybe it's a LinkedIn message or a Facebook post, whatever it might be, is that you've read it, you're making a comment on it. So what does it do? A, it does help stroke their ego, but it lends more credibility to it. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create that one-to-one conversation. It was very interesting, but I had a conversation this morning by way of LinkedIn, and I didn't realize it, but this gentleman and myself, we've really come to know each other quite well, and yet we don't have any formal connection in terms of telephone or email. It's all by way of LinkedIn. But it's absolutely fascinating the level of discussions that we're having. So this is where you take social media. And how did I meet the guy? Because I was posting stuff. He was posting stuff. We happened to be commenting on each other. That ultimately led to a message, led to another message, led to another message. I have had situations, and I had one just the other day. This was the CEO of a Florida-based company, pretty good-sized company. And I had commented on something that his company had posted. For some reason, anyway, long story short, we wound up communicating back and forth by way of LinkedIn messages. You know what's very interesting? He made the comment to me, he said, don't email me because it'll get lost in the email. Let's keep our discussion right here by way of LinkedIn messages.
Yeah.
Wow, what does that tell you? That tells
Yeah.
you it's a communication tool that works one-to-one.
Yeah. And so how do you like? I guess at a certain point, LinkedIn is going to become kind of like it's same way as your inbox. It's going to get over flooded with a bunch of these spam messages because anybody could send a message. So how do you like fight through that noise? And I guess even further than that, what you're saying is you want to take it from this like kind of one to many and then eventually get it to that one-to-one conversation. So, how do you stick out through that if you're like an individual sales rep at a company and not Mark Hunter? How is that person going to take that conversation over to the one-to-one
Well, the way you do it is you don't sit there and send that, and we've all gotten that, hey, it's great to be connected with you, and then they go into this 16 paragraphs, have you have this great solar energy, or, no, I hate those. What you want to do is you join groups that they belong to. And you begin participating in those discussions. Then maybe you begin posing a question yourself. And remember, it's social. That's the critical word. You have to become social first. And then you get, this isn't just a quick, oh, wow, I'm connected to 20,000 people, and let me go ahead and spam them, because that's basically what you're doing. No, you're engaging in conversations. And out of those conversations, then people begin to lift their way up. I've had situations where I've looked at people's profiles and I see something interesting, and I go, wow, and I'll go ahead and send them a message. Hey, I didn't realize I grew up in Seattle, okay? And every now and then I'll run into somebody and they say, oh, that they're in Seattle, and I'll go, wow, hey, I lived there long before it was fashionable. And again, I've created some great one-to-one relationships with people that way. See, again, what it is, it's social media becoming social community, becoming social connection. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time.
Yeah, so patience. And, joining those groups, I mean, we see in our sales hacker community that people that are chiming in on a lot of these threads and providing value are a lot of the people that people are going to afterwards for, hey, asking them these questions, creating a relationship, and eventually earning the right to be able to sell to them. So, there's that, the Gary Vaynerchuk jab, jab, right hook, ask, provide value, then earn the right to ask. It's the same thing, and it's in a social setting. Speaking of social, real quick, tweet us at #SHWebinar if you have any questions along the way. We'll get to them as we're going, and also in the sidebar of the GoToWebinar. And so the other thing we were talking about was phone. So I guess there's like two different aspects of phone. Phone, for a little while there, I think for like the last 2 years, obviously with social selling going pretty big, and these outbound emailing apps that are coming out, phone kind of got lost in the mix. Oh, don't cold call me, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, obviously, I think there's Trish Bertuzzi who said like the cold call is dead, but the call isn't dead. It's just making sure you do your research beforehand, and engaging with that person in a way that's going to build a rapport. So let's start with, before we get even voicemails, let's start with just the phone first. When you're prospecting, what are you still seeing that's relevant in getting people prospecting off the phone?
The telephone works. It still works. We've been inundated with so many of these outbound tools that people have forgotten about the telephone. And what I'm finding is that fewer people are using the telephone today. Now, we got to keep in mind this. A telephone call can go one of three ways. One, it can go to voicemail. Hopefully we'll have some time to talk about that. Two, the person you're looking for can answer the phone. Or three, it can go to a gatekeeper of one type or another. Yeah. Each one of those three are completely different. What happens is salespeople aren't prepared. You have to be prepared for it to go one of three ways, and each one of those three is completely different. What I want to do, if I get you live on the phone, if I was calling Max up and I got you, here's all I want to do. I want to do just really, it's two things. One, I want to learn one new piece of information about you. And two, I want to earn the right, the privilege, honor, and respect to be able to touch base with you again. That's it. I'm not trying to, hey, give me your social security number, your driver's license, and your bank account numbers. No, that's not going to happen on the first call. That's going to take me a couple calls. No.
What do you want to learn? What are those like top couple things that you want to get at?
I want to learn one insight about you that's going to allow me to have something to follow up with you. For instance, I may call you. Now, I may be a software company, okay? And I'm going to call you up and I'm going to say, Max, Mark Hunter with, so-and-so. I've got some information regarding X. And the information regarding X is not about my product. It's about the industry. It's about something. But it's designed to create a trigger in your mind. It says, that's interesting. Tell me a little more. And you can share a piece or two of that information. Then what you do is you say, how does that fit into your organization? How does that? See, what I've done is I've shared with you an industry piece of information, a macro that's of interest to you, not about my company. And I then take and I craft a question back around that I'm going to hopefully get you to share with me something of interest. Now, you share with me, yeah, that's very interesting because we're facing kind of similar issues. Oh, really? That's interesting. Now, depending on the tone of the call, I can elect to ask another question, or I might say, hey, that's great. I know I caught you at probably a bad time. Could I give you a buzz back tomorrow? How does 10 o'clock work? And let's take 15 minutes and talk about this. See, now I'm going to come back with a more scheduled time. Because remember, if I call you out of the blue, and Trish is so spot on, cold calling. It's the cold that's dead, not the calling.
Yeah.
I'm catching you at a time that you probably don't have much time to talk. So I probably can't let this call go more than a minute or two.
Okay.
But boom, now I come back and I do the scheduled call. Oh, hey, here's a great trick. I love great trick, great strategy, and it works. If you're trying to reach a hard-to-reach person that never answers the phone, call them at the top of the hour. Why top of the hour? Because most busy people are in meetings all day. And meetings, hey, just like this webinar, start at the top of the hour. So if you want to reach somebody, call them between 58 minutes after the hour and 2 minutes into the hour. And it's a maze. You'll be amazed at who you'll be able to reach.
Interesting. That's a nice little tip there. So I really love that you're providing the value on that call. And the next step is to earn the meeting, the actual meeting. It's not to have that meeting on the spot. And you're not asking a qualifying question. You're actually providing value in that so that you can ask qualifying questions later. So that is not
right. Yeah.
That's not an appropriate person call or anything like that, or what's on your 2017 agenda or anything. It's about adding value and then earning the right to then have that conversation later on.
Right. Then on the next day, I'm going to sit there and we're going to start having those qualifying calls. Hey, are you the right decision maker? Et cetera. But again, I've got to earn the right, the privilege, honor, and respect to be able to have that. Because again, you may not be the right person, but you can still give me some great, critical, valuable information that's going to help me when I do get to the right decision maker. So why do I want to blow you off right out of the chute? I don't want to.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. And so that's if you get in touch with the individual that you're trying to reach. What happens if you hit a gatekeeper?
Well, if you get a gatekeeper, what I like doing is I like asking them a very similar type of question. Now, here's why. Because they may point me to that decision. Oh, you know what? It's not Max that you want to talk to, but you need to talk to Alicia. That's who you need to be talking to. So I don't hesitate to come right out of the chute and say, hey, I've got information regarding who might be the person who would be the best for me to talk to.
So you don't say, if you wanted to get in touch, you called the CEO and a gatekeeper picked up. You don't say, hey, I'm looking to get in touch with the CEO. You actually say, you actually deliver the same presentation of that value and let them tell you who you should be talking to.
I'm going to deliver the same thing because, first of all, are they going to connect you to the CEO? No, they're not going to connect you to the CEO. You have to earn the right to, see.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is because, again, they may share with me a very critical piece of information. Because sometimes, we may be calling the CEO, and the CEO is not really the person who we need to be speaking to. There's somebody actually more valuable. And here's what I've also found. Let's stay with this CEO piece because I've got a whole chapter in the book on it. It's amazing how many times you reach that administrative assistant, and they're more empowered than the CEO because they're the ones who really make the ultimate decisions. So guess what? I'm going to find out critical information from them who are going to guide me to the CEO. And here's a little trick regarding if you are looking to get that CEO meeting, here's a little trick. Don't say, well, I just want to speak with him or her for a couple of minutes. That's what I'm going to say. Send me an email. And don't sit there and say, well, we'd like to get a 1-hour meeting. Hey, nobody gets a 1-hour meeting with the CEO. Don't even ask for 30 minutes. What I've found is this. Ask for 20 minutes. That's longer than what can be asked for in an email in terms of just put your questions into an email. But 20 minutes is less than a half hour. Okay, I'll go and but think about this. Nobody schedules 20-hour meetings. 20-minute meetings. They schedule 30-minute meeting. So bingo, you've asked for a 20-minute meeting, and you've automatically got a 30-minute block with that CEO.
So 20 minutes is the sweet spot number to pull that off.
It's a sweet spot, perfect sweet spot, yeah.
I like that. I like that. And so you're talking to the, so can't you do this? Couldn't you offer this information over email? Like,
Well, sure you can, but let's not kid ourselves.
Could you find that gatekeeper and send them the same, the same value, whatever, the comment or the link or the, the summary? Wouldn't that be more scalable?
Well, yeah, I can, but let's look at this from a couple things. A, is that gatekeeper actually going to see it? Because will the spam filter, the junk mail, whatever, pick it up and not even see it? If they do see it, are they going to really respond to it, or I'll get to it later? And why not speed the process? Yeah. The most valuable asset you have is your time. So if I'm going after what could be a worthwhile customer, isn't it worth me picking up the phone and calling them? Yeah, and oh, by the way, you know what it does? It now begins to separate me from every other salesperson who is simply sending you email. So I love using email and the telephone and social media. I treat all of these as tools that I can use to ultimately get in touch with you, the person who I know is going to benefit once you do business with me.
I agree. I mean, we're a small organization, and somebody emails me about marketing automation, and even a couple months ago we were in need of a solution, and we fixed that. So don't call me about it. But
I won't send you that email.
Right? So at a certain point, we were somebody's ideal customer profile, low-hanging fruit for them, and there were a couple times where I got called out of the blue, and I said, you're going to want to speak to this person, send them an email here. But that's a lot more than I would have done had I gotten an email or really anything else.
Right.
Because they had me on the phone and they got me at a good time, and they were thoughtful, and they had done their research. I actually did send them down and talk to the right person.
Hey, can I run with that? You reach them at the right time. This is one of the critical mistakes too many salespeople make. I always want to be logging. If I'm trying to get a hold of you, Max, and I call you at 11:15 Pacific time on a Wednesday, well, guess what? The next time I call you, I'm going to try calling you at 4:15 on a Thursday. I'm always going to use different days of the week and different hours of the day. And you're right, because sometimes those windows just don't work, but you catch the person at the right time, it works great. And hey, don't kid yourself. Holiday weeks don't sit there and say, well, gee, it's the week of Thanksgiving, nobody's working. Hey, you know what? Many times those are the best weeks to be making phone calls. Why? Because everybody's gone. So people are like bored, sitting around the office. Suddenly they will take your call and say, whoa, you're a salesperson? You're working? I'm impressed. Yeah, let's talk.
Interesting. And so you said three things before. So the last thing was voicemail. So give us some juicy voicemail tips on this, because I think a lot of people struggle with leaving voicemails. I hear so many kind of unenthusiastic, low energy, pitchy voicemails from people, and it's just like I don't even know. I almost want to call them back just to give them feedback on just how you talk about what you're selling. Like, having a little bit of passion, a little bit of energy, but give us some juicy tips on that.
Yeah, first of all, 11 to 14 seconds. Whoa! 11 to 14 seconds is the perfect voicemail. I mean, how many times? I mean, you and I have both had those painful 45, 60-second voicemails where you do #7*7. You delete them after, it's like, this is stupid. You said passion, energy. You got to come through. Hey, Max, Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter, got some great insights on sales trends for 2017. Give me a buzz. 402-445-2110. 402-445-2110. Now, I don't know if we timed that, but that'd be probably about 13, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And what did I do? I used your name. I didn't worry about my title. Now, my title is my company, the Sales Hunter.
Yeah.
Don't waste time saying your title. People could care less.
Yep.
It's just your name, your company. And I stated my phone number twice. State your phone number twice. Now, oh, by the way, Is Max going to call me back? No, I don't think Max. Don't worry about people not calling you back. But you know what? You've left an impression. I consider a voicemail the same thing as a billboard. You're driving down the interstate. There's a billboard. What does that do? That doesn't immediately change your behavior, but you see enough billboards, it changes your behavior. So when I do a voicemail on top of some email, on top of social media, boom, you know what? I'm getting through. And those two key words you said, energy and passion. It's amazing how that counts a lot for helping people to say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to talk to this guy because they're not a village idiot.
That's a good point. So, yeah, I think like inflection really helps on that. That passion has to shine through. You don't want to call somebody back who sounds really boring to speak through. And I agree with the shortness of the voicemail, especially when you're putting your phone number in there. You want to get that in before they delete it, before they hang it up, and you want to keep it short and sweet. I mean, it's like the same thing as the phone call. You want to get to the meeting. You're not trying to close the deal right there. So we've gone through phone, gone through social. We do a lot with email on saleshacker.com. We don't have to get too far into email unless you have anything special that you want to.
Well, I'll share with you this. The biggest problem salespeople have is they write their prospecting emails on their laptop or their desktop, but guess what? It's viewed on a smart device.
Yeah.
So you know what? Look at it. Yeah. Look at it. How does it come through? That's why I say it's that subject line and the first 120, 130 characters matter, because that's what I'm deciding whether or not I even want to look at that voicemail. And I've never seen studies. Maybe you have. And again, your book, Sales Hacker, does such a great job laying out all these tools. But I would love to see a study be done. Do emails get deleted faster on a smartphone than on a laptop? I bet they do.
I don't know. I think that's an Abe Lincoln quote or something like that. We're doing Abe Lincoln quotes now. He sent it to somebody. He's like, sorry, this letter is so long. I didn't have enough time to make it shorter. So really what you're doing is you're spending your time editing it down. I can go on a rant for days, but I think in like high school and college English classes, they teach you how to make things longer. Like this essay must be 5,000 words. But what they really need to be doing is teaching you how to take those 5,000 words now and shortening it to 500, now 50, now 5. Like learning how to edit those things down is a really important skill, and it's definitely something that a salesperson should have. Learning how to be concise and mindful of people's time. And that, I think the best salespeople who actually are sending emails and are successful obviously have social awareness and understand what information to put into those emails and not try and close the deal on the spot, but also know how to edit those emails down to a point where they're concise enough and they deliver enough. And the same thing goes with calls and voicemails and everything else. If you start thinking in an edited down manner, then you're going to have a lot more higher chance of success. And they don't teach enough of that. And that's something you have to learn as you continue doing this with experience, with good managers, good teachers that actually are on top of you and telling you, hey, this is too long, try it again. And I think a lot of these tools, that these outbound emailing tools actually make it easier for you to figure out what works because you're able to A/B test things now, where in the past you might have had to use a spreadsheet and like counting your inbox. Now you can actually send it through these tools, see what's been opened, see what's been clicked, and be able to, and this is why I love the technology side of things, be able to A/B test what's working, what's not, how to make things shorter, and like what to edit down, what the important things to add are, and what's just, how to cut the fat basically. So
hey, let's jump on that for a bit because A/B testing is so critical, and nobody does enough of it. We really do, because not only are you A/B testing the content, but who you're sending it to, splitting it out in those groups and so forth, because it is amazing. We can increase the effectiveness of our prospecting emails, I think, exponentially by using some of the tools like what you talk about. And so, yeah, I mean, spot on.
Yeah. So I want to get into, we've done a lot on kind of the front end of the prospecting. Now, we're in the second meeting, or we've got the meeting, and now we're talking about like the questions to ask. where, like, let's see, where do you go in the book? What do you talk about? Where do you start? What's the flow look like? What are you trying to get out of that meeting?
Yeah, here's a simple rule that I have. First of all, you have a sales pipeline, not a sales parking lot, okay? Too many people have a sales funnel that's not a pipeline, it's a parking lot. My goal is this. I want to spend more time with fewer prospects. Whoa, more time with fewer prospects. What do I mean by this? I want to qualify, because initially you're not a prospect, you're a suspect. You have to earn the right to be a prospect. So what I want to do is I want to hit you with some pretty hard questions really quickly, because I either want to get you into my process or I want to move you back over here into my marketing lists and other tools. I'm going to stay in touch with you, but I'm going to let my full automation tools handle those. What I want to be doing is I want to just spend my time, because the most valuable asset I have is my time, with as few prospects as possible, because I'm going to move you through the funnel quickly. So I want to be asking you questions. And what I'm really looking for is I'm looking for you to be sharing with me a piece of proprietary information. What do I mean by that? I want to know something about you, either professionally or personally, that's not known publicly. Now stop and think about that. This isn't stalking. But when you share that with me, you're only going to share that with somebody who has demonstrated confidence and competence. You see, think about this. You're not going to do business with anybody who you don't have confidence and competence with. So what I want to do is I want to earn that as quickly as possible in the prospecting phase. When you share with me that piece of proprietary information, I know that you are probably going to become a very good prospect for me. Here's the other pieces I'm looking for. What is the outcome that you want to achieve? What is the outcome? Now, I want to be able to take that outcome and loop that back into time. Because I also believe this, nobody buys anything. Nobody. I don't care if this is B2B, B2C, or even B2G. Nobody buys anything. B2G is business to government. It's investing. People will invest. So they've got an outcome. What's the pain or the gain? Very, very simple here, but I got to focus in on what's the outcome. It's only after I know the outcome that I can then begin to back in and begin to really ascertain, okay, now, what's your value of money? Now, what do I mean by value of money? Here's where I'm going with this. Too many times, people wind up having to discount deals to close them. Why? Because they're trying to take a Walmart shopper and make them a Nordstrom customer. If you're Nordstrom, don't be prospecting Walmart shoppers. So in other words, what I want to do is I want to only get prospects that fit me, what I'm looking for. So I'm going to ask you early on. Now, how do I ask that? The question I love to ask is, how have you made decisions like this in the past? Now, that's not a threatening question in the prospecting phase. Why? Because I'm just trying to find out information. But it's going to help me understand who might be some other decision makers that may come into play. What's the timeline you go through for making a decision? What's the process? And who else might be involved? And what's your value of money? I love that, because that's going to allow me to begin, because what I want to do is I only want to spend time with the best of my prospects. And I'm going to ask those questions early on. I'm not afraid to take you out of my sales funnel.
And so you're kind of playing bouncer at that point too.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I like that. Yeah, I am playing bouncer.
Yeah.
And this is what scares some people. Well, gee, you might lose some business. No, I'm not going to lose business. You know, they're going to wind up coming over here. They'll percolate back up again. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get more business, because I realize that my most valuable asset is my time.
Yeah.
So I only want to be spending my time with the highest potential prospects.
What are some examples of those questions that you, and what with that question are you trying to do? So, you know, you can go off BANT or what, any one of those kind of acronyms, but each question you ask is trying to figure out if this person's a decision maker, or if they have the budget, or if there's a need, or if it's the right time, et cetera, et cetera. So what are some of those questions, and what is that? What answers are you looking for, and what does that question convey, like, to you?
Yeah.
The answer back.
Yeah, and BANT is a great, and BANT has been so beat. You know, we won't even go down that road. Yeah. Here's what I found out. When I'm in the prospecting phase with you, you are much more relaxed. What happens too many times is salespeople don't find out the critical information until they get through the negotiating phase. As soon as you know that you're in negotiations with the salesperson, boom, walls go up, games start being played. So what I want to do is I want to get as much of this information out of the way early. So I'm going to ask questions like this. How have you made decisions like this in the past?
Mm-hmm.
What are the outcomes you're looking for? How does this shape you? You know, it's interesting. Before we started this webinar, I asked you the question, what are the big things you're chasing in 17? You see, that was the type of question, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to find out, hey, what are some things that you might be willing to share with me, you share with me, that I can help you out with, you see? I'm asking these broad questions because what I'm doing is I'm learning a lot about your thinking process, your processing process in terms of how you package up information, and you're going to share with me insights. Now, here's what I found. I only need one of those questions to start the conversation, because just like a good salesperson, whatever you share with me, I'm going to ask a follow-up question. I'm going to ask a follow-up question. I really let the prospect, even during the prospecting phase, guide the call. Whoa, yeah, I do. Because you know what? They know their challenges much better than I do. So why should I sit there and preach to them? Let them tell me. And oh, by the way, the more they're talking, the more confidence they're going to have in me, because they know that as I ask them follow-up questions, what does that tell them? Wow, this guy really respects what I'm saying. This guy values what I'm saying. Yeah, that's how I do it. So really, it's not like it's a magical set of questions. It's just one to get the ball rolling, and then we keep going and going and going.
And so what's the go-to question? What's like the number? If you can tell everyone right now, here's how you start every call. What is it?
There's actually two questions. I'll do this on the follow-up call. I'll say, how have you made decisions like this in the past? Okay. Now I'll share that if I've uncovered a little bit about what your outcome is. If I haven't, I'm gonna start off by saying, what are the challenges? What's the roadblocks that you're facing to allow you to accomplish your objectives? Now, I'm going to word that differently and so forth, whether or not I'm on the phone or in person. If I'm in person, I can do a little more relaxed. If I'm on the phone, it's got to be a little more short and tight. But all I'm doing is I just want you to engage with me one piece of information. Now, if I can't even get to that point, like, wow, I can't get to that point, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to, remember the reason for the initial call. Hey, I've got some information regarding something macro. Hey, what do you see in this information? What do you see in this data? What do you see happening that really resonates with you? And then I'll run with that. But it's whatever those pieces are. And again, it's just getting the conversation going.
That's great. I think that's really helpful for a lot of people that are listening, that are doing this day to day, or managing teams that are doing this day to day. So, running through the book, before we get into questions, were there any things in here that you wanted to go over? Because there's so much amazing prospecting content in here. And we covered kind of the front end side of things, and we covered like the next steps. Sorry, my dog's barking at the lawnmower guy. So anything else in here you wanted to go over before we get
again, there is so much different content in there, because again, we've got chapters in there on how to reach the C-suite. We've got chapters in there on the Gatekeeper. We've got emailing strategies and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever piece I were to run down, I would probably wind up ignoring 80% of the people out there. But let me share with you this. Your attitude is going to impact how you prospect more than anything else. One of the easiest ways that I say for people to start their prospecting day out is to reach out to an existing customer. Reach out to an existing customer. Why? Because that existing customer is going to tell you why they like doing business with you. When they tell you why they like doing business with you, that's going to jazz you, make you more excited. And guess what? You're going to be more engaged and more motivated to make your calls, do your emails, do your prospecting. And the final piece I'll share with you, if you don't set a time frame, and oh, by the way, it's not 2 hours. or 3 hours. And yeah, I want to have that block, but I also want to have how many during that time, how many phone calls am I going to make? How many people am I going to talk to? How many emails am I going to send out? Because I watch too many people sit there and say, well, gee, I dedicated 2 hours to prospecting. And yeah, what'd you do? You watched 7 cat videos. You checked ESPN.com 6 times. You sent 3 emails and you made 1 phone call. Guess what? You didn't prospect. You wasted 2 hours of time. So I want to have what is the quantity. And ooh, that's kind of creepy. But yeah, you got to kind of hold your feet to the fire because too many people want to blow off prospecting. Because again, they just want to wait for the phone to ring, wait for that email to come in. Oh, wow, I got this deal. No, you didn't get a deal. Sales is about creating incremental opportunities.
Yep. And
everything else is customer service.
People like to do the easier things. I mean, it's clearly easier to send out a ton of emails than it is to dial and talk to C-level and gatekeepers and things like that. So, you know, I think that obviously comes from the managers and who they hire and how they, you know, how they train and stuff like that. But also reps need to not be lazy and need to do those things that are harder, that are, you know, that take more more energy to do, and, you know, mental and physical and everything like that. So we got a question here. We'll go into some questions.
Yeah.
Since we're coming to the end of the hour here. Can you talk about how you differentiate your approach depending on a product that you're selling? So you work with a lot of different companies in a lot of different industries, right? Yeah. So how do you tailor that?
Yeah. The way you're going to tailor is this. First of all, you got to understand what's your sales cycle. Are you a transactional item or are you a long sales cycle? You got to understand that first, because if you're a transactional item, then you do have to be able to close that sale in 1 or 2 calls, period. If you're a long sales cycle, dealing in a mid-enterprise level or something like that, it may be 9, 10, 15 calls. It may be a 2-year process. So again, you've got to split that apart. Now, your product, it's not the product you sell, it's the outcome you deliver. That is fundamentally key. If I focus in on the product, guess what? I'm going to be asked for price quotes. I will always lose price quotes. I want to focus in on the outcome. What's the outcome? And oh, by the way, the outcome, my product, I was doing a webinar this morning. We were talking about medical devices. And medical devices, well, gee, no, medical devices could have any number of different outcomes depending on the hospital or the clinic that you're selling into, you see. So I'm going to develop my processes around the outcomes I want to achieve, around the outcomes the customer is going to receive.
Excellent. So another question here is something that's working for them is doing outreach, calling and emailing in the morning between 7:15 and 8:30 in the morning before a gatekeeper gets into the office. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, spot on, spot on. I mean, I was working with a company recently, and they had set this challenge 8 before 8. The idea was to make 8 contacts before 8 a.m. And I love early morning phone calls. I love late afternoon, you know, call after 4:30, call after 5. And hey, don't sit there and think, well, Friday afternoons, nobody wants to call. No. Friday afternoons for a lot of industries can be absolutely spot on. Monday mornings, oh no, Monday mornings can be spot on. Don't sit there and allow yourself to think something won't work until you try it. And oh, by the way, you may have a product that's sold into a couple different industries, okay? So maybe one industry you can't call on a Monday morning, but you can call them on a Friday afternoon. I've done work in like the building trades, for instance, and Friday afternoons can be a great time to reach people because they're getting into, you know, beer 30.
Yep.
And they've got the time. They've got the time to talk to you. But don't try to catch them at 7 a.m. Monday morning because they're trying to get the crews out the door.
And it's industry specific. So, and it could
industry
be
specific.
You know, the person who asked that question could be in an industry that works well in. It's something that you can try. It's something that also, if you're a socially aware salesperson, you'll know if in your industry that's a good idea or not. We got another one here. So this is actually from not the salesperson's point of view. If someone is interested in a service but they don't meet the qualifying questions, what's the best way to let them down? Oh wait, okay, so never mind, I read it wrong. This is from a salesperson's perspective. So if you're the bouncer in this case, what's a good way to tell them that they're not a good fit for the service at this point in time?
You just simply tell them. I mean, you're providing them a service. You may route them to somebody else. You may say, hey, you know what? I think this would be a better company for you to be talking to, and go ahead and send them that way. That's okay. You're going to earn points for that. No, by the way, guess what? That salesperson, that customer you're talking to is not going to forget that. You help them by sending them somewhere else. They're not going to forget about you. And guess what? That may just come back to get you business later on. Believe me, I have no qualms at all.
Yeah. I think building that goodwill comes back in your favor later on. Like maybe later on they are a good fit. Maybe they have people who are good fits. And so, you know, you don't want them to feel like they almost weren't a good fit when they walked away from it. You have to kind of like spin that in a way that's going to kind of let them down easy. So we have another question here. Can you give us an example of how to offer a solution in a call? So
yeah, just easy. First of all, you sit there and you ask them what's the solution that they're looking for, and then you simply go ahead and describe how. And this is where you can get into that descriptive process. Remember, a good salesperson is really nothing more than a physician who is diagnosing and providing you with what is the prescription, what's the solution. So fine, that you simply provide them. Hey, okay, so you were saying that you can't get people on the second shift, or you can't do this or something like that. Okay, well, let me share with you how we operate, how we can do this, or maybe it's software or something like that. But go ahead and explain it to them. But here's the key thing. Don't jump into the weeds on your description. When you jump into the weeds, you run the risk of sharing with them technical information, weird information that's going to be over their head. Stay broad, stay big at first. Let them respond to it, and then you begin to drill down.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And so how many, I guess, we're talking about like pretty much enterprise deals here, because they got to be a certain size before you get too deep in the weeds with these questions and these calls and these meetings. How do you break out these stages of these deals? So how do you know when it's the right deal to spend, that much time on, have all these calls? How do you know when it's time to cut a deal that's taking too long?
Well, it is, and again, this is where early on in my book I talk about how to break apart your process and what is the value of the customer. Because is it that initial sale? Is it the lifetime value? Is all those things? Those are things, and then more importantly, what's the margins? You and I both work with a lot of companies that have an incredibly high margin, so they can invest a lot in sales. We work with other companies that have very low margin, so you can't invest much from a sales. And you simply have to come back and say, for instance, I will never hesitate at all with almost any customer to say, hey, if I only get to break even on the initial sale, but I know I've got X in terms of incremental sales that are going to come after that, fine, I got no problem. There are software companies out there that will deficit spend, knowing that they won't break even, they won't get in the black until year 3 or year 4. That's fine. Again, you really have to determine what's right for you. What I will say is this: value your time first. Value your time.
Makes sense. All right, we'll take one more question here before we get to the top of the hour. How to follow up on those with those who've never answered your emails, voicemails, LinkedIn, and you're about to write like the 10th email. Do you just give up? Do you send a breakup email? Do you break up voicemail? What are your top strategies for unresponsive?
I am just not a fan of the breakup email, and we all know that's to me that just turns me off. Here's what I'll do: I'm going to put you into a cycle. I'm going to try to hit you maybe 7 or 8 times over the course of maybe a 5 or 6 week period. If you haven't responded, then I'm going to take you out. I'm going to move you off my list for probably 90 days. Then I'll bring you back in. and I'll do another flea dip with you. If you haven't responded, I'm going to move you back out. I don't sit there and keep pushing a dead horse. Dead horses do not move.
And they're not a good use of your time.
They're not, yes.
Definitely not. All right, well, we will let people keep asking questions on Twitter. Do hashtag SHWebinar. Mark, what's your, are you the sales hunter on Twitter? What's your...
Yes, the sales hunter.
Okay, so
it's
at
great.
the sales hunter.
Yeah. At the sales hunter.
Hacker. You'll find us. Ask us more questions. The video of this will be posted on saleshacker.com probably early next week. Actually, I think we'll get it up by the end of this week. But check back. You'll be able to view this. If you have any questions for Mark in the meantime, definitely get a copy of his book right here, High Profit Prospecting. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, everywhere.
It is everywhere books can be found. That's right.
It's awesome. You guys top, definitely one of the best sellers in the sales category on Amazon right now.
Yeah, right now this book is absolutely crushing it in both electronic form, audio form, and the paperback version. So yeah, in fact, the publisher told me the other day they're already into a second printing, and the book hasn't even been released yet. I take that as a good sign.
And so, so this is your second book.
This is my second book, and first book was High Profit Selling, which really was, gee, I'm kind of keeping the words high profit. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
Nice.
I'll run with that one.
It's all about high profit. And this is the troublemaker.
Hey, there's the dog. I love it.
Yeah.
I should run. I should go get my dog, but it's okay. It's okay. We won't have a dog fest. So.
No. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and talking with us today. And we will again have this up for everyone. Shoot us your questions, comments, anything on Twitter, and we will catch you next week for some more great Sales Hacker webinars. Thanks again, Mark.
Great selling.
Yeah.